fascinating concept in my communications research studies is the interpretivist theory known as symbolic interactionism. This theory was proposed by George Herbert Mead and Herbert Bloomer, and it dealt with the relationship of interpretation, interaction, and meaning. According to the theory, everything in our society is based on symbols. Symbols can be anything, from gestures to expressions to images to language to physical objects. The meaning of these symbols, however, is something independent to the person interpreting it. Each person can have their own perception of what this symbol is and what it quote-unquote means. The way a person defines the meaning it gives to the symbol is based on their interactions with society. Meaning originates from the person's interaction with history, ideals, culture, and social contexts. That meaning is never stagnant, much like how society is. And that individual's meaning of that symbol constantly perpetuates depending on the changes and interactions they have. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is a theoretical framework of today's video. The visions in the world of Genshin have always been a difficult debate in Genshin's lore. The mystery of such an item is unparalleled that even those that use it on a daily basis have no idea what it really signifies. Today, however, we're not talking about the objective or theoretical truths of the vision, but instead something more important. The visions are only significant because they have a certain subjective meaning to each of the wielders, whether it be meaningless like a tool or the apex of human ambition. Instead of focusing on the divine aspects of the vision, I want to investigate how each of the wielders interpret the meaning of these mysterious artifacts. Let's begin. Before we put into consideration the more human characters, we can also make inferences based on the Archons' thoughts on the visions, or more specifically, their distribution. A's voice line cements that the Archons have no jurisdiction over how the visions come to a wielder, and that even though they have a designated location or element, A says that even she doesn't know the criterion on why the electrovision stopped being distributed.
Really? So in all this time, no new electrovisions have appeared in the outside world? Well, what I can say on this topic is subject to certain constraints, but it is not by my will that visions are granted or denied. The key is people's desire, and, well, there's another side to it too.
Additionally, her and Zhongli talk about visions having an alternative side to the power that they're supposed to give.
Visions are also a type of contract. You should know that all power comes at a price. For every bit of power you gain, so too do you gain more responsibility.
To add to this, Venti's dialogue about the visions is pretty telling out of all the three Archons.
Instead, each Archon has an internal magical focus that resonates directly with Celestia itself, known as a gnosis. It's just a glowing glass ball I carry around to avoid suspicion. You want to know about my vision? Oh, go on then, take a look for yourself. I can make you a matching one if you like.
First, it's pretty neat that the fact that the Archons can't create their own visions was already hinted at with Venti and Zhongli's fake visions. Think about it this way, if the Archons can create visions, why don't they just make one for their human personas? Why bother making a fake replica? We know that Venti and Zhongli's visions don't resonate with the meteors in 1.1 or the stone in the 2.4 Archon quest, because they're fake and they have no elemental energy within them. Secondly, the gnosis may not be connected to the creation of the visions either. Neither does it connect to the Archon's originality. 500 years is such a long time for A to have risen to the position of the Electro Archon. A also left her gnosis with the Eye a long time ago around the time of Kuniko Sushi's existence, but the distribution of electrovisions only ended a year ago. Venti and Zhongli's gnosis were also taken away by Senora only around the time of the Traveler, but their existence in Teyvat has been longer. Zhongli is already an established employee of the Wangshan funeral parlor. Thirdly, Venti opens the term allegenes and the purpose of the visions.
In truth, every wielder of a vision is one who can attain godhood and ascend to Celestia. We call such people allegenes.
This seems to be information that is private to most of the Archons. In the manga, Dotori also says this line of dialogue, meaning it's possible he learned it from the Tsaritsa. Just the thought of the Archons knowing what the visions are for recontextualizes certain actions like the Vision Hunt Decree. Maybe A knows something about ascension and visions that she doesn't want to divulge. But now we move on to the perceptions of the users. I will be separating this segment into the three nations, investigating what are the common themes that wielders from the nation share with each other, it's actually pretty fascinating to see that each of the nation's wielders have differences in how they perceive a vision, some feeling stronger than others, while some just prefer to be apathetic. I'll also be connecting them with possible contexts from that nation's society and structure. Granted, I won't be able to go through all of the dialogue from the characters of that nation given the sheer amount of them, so I'll only be using brief examples and you guys can look for the ones that I've missed. So with that, let's begin with Mondstadt. Mondstadt's Alleghenies tend to talk about their visions in a much more quizzical fashion. Mondstadt's characters appreciate the vision and carry a more lighthearted perspective on why the gods gave them their visions. Most of the time, the simple explanation of "the gods thought I was worthy" is good enough for the Mondstadian characters. They also tend to be more expressive with showing their emotions about the visions, whether it be distaste, curiosity, or joy. The first similarities are between the scholarly characters, who are more open to ask about the elemental interpretations of the visions. Characters like Lisa, Kaya, and Albedo share a fascinated approach about their visions, asking or answering what are the mysteries behind the gem.
Still struggling with how visions work? Let's see, how can I explain it? The apparatus that allows us to see is our eyes. A vision is the apparatus by which we control the elements. Simple, is it not?
My vision? Ah, that's nothing more than a tool to aid in my experiments, no different from a beaker or crucible. The one thing about it that really intrigues me is the principle behind how it works. One day, I will uncover its secrets. It's only a matter of time.
Visions? Ah, they're a necessary device in controlling the elements, with you being the sole exception, of course. As for why that is, perhaps we can find the time to experiment a little.
To be honest, I'm feeling a little dejected. Well, sure, this vision proves that the Archons think I'm worthy, but why is it a geo-vision?
Some characters in Mondstadt show their apathy for the vision. There's this underlying thought that they don't really need the vision for anything massive, and that it isn't really indicative of their true skill sets.
My vision is my most important research tool. Why, without it, I'd be unable to proceed with most of my elemental research. Combat. Oh. I suppose I use it for that too when I'm out in the field looking for materials.
A vision. Could be proof of strength, or a medal for having survived. Who knows? There are two sides to every coin. I won't limit my vision with ceremonies and definitions. It witnesses me, and I witness it. That's all.
But the last correlation is that they're individually idealistic, mostly focusing on what the vision means to them personally. It's actually pretty interesting to see how individualized their answers are when you compare it to how the Liyuan and Inazuman characters answer for their visions. Mondstadt vision wielders also share this level of personal interpretation on how the visions work, not really conforming to an objective truth. The wielders instead give you an interpretation based on their ideals and beliefs.
Vision helps Razor fight with Lightning Tooth, protect Lupicar.
This little marble is supposed to be a present from Barbados to say, well done? Well done for what, though? He is the god of freedom, I guess. Maybe that's why he likes me. Alright, from now on, I'll say thank you to Barbados by showing that I have the freedom to blow up as many fish as I want. Am I doing it right?
Visions are a light in the sea of darkness that surrounds those who have lost their way. But for those who have faith, they are little more than badges of conviction.
Descendant of a depraved dynasty isn't the most flattering reputation to have. The only way I can shake it for good is if I keep avenging my kin in my own way. Those who desire vengeance need power first, so it makes sense that I would get a vision.
Getting recognized by the gods was the last thing I expected, seeing as how I'm so unlucky all the time. But if the gods haven't given up on me, I guess that means I shouldn't give up on me either.
For Mondstadt, as always, is the Gunhildr family motto. Every time I use my vision, I am reminded of my mother and the hopes of the people of Mondstadt. For Mondstadt, for freedom. That is what I fight for.
The fact that the City of Freedom has the most individualized explanations of their visions is indicative of how Mondstadt's ideals are integrated into their citizens. They never really had the grace of Barbados the way that Liyue and Inazuma had Moraxes and Baals. To them, visions have a more relaxed symbolism, mostly positive. Therefore, it allowed them to have a more flexible mindset of the visions as opposed to the other nations. Religion is a part of their culture, yes, but the absence of their god contributes to the methods Mondstadt's culture was raised in. Now we move on to the Liyuan characters. Liyue's characters have a more rigid form of dialogue. Liyuan dialogue has always been very flowy and formal, definitely a contrast to the more relaxed vocabulary of Mondstadian characters. As for their perception on visions, the same can also be said. The characters root themselves in two ideas: its practicality for business contributions to the land of commerce, and its significance to the gods and Rex Lapis. Firstly, some characters don't care for the vision and its intricacies. We see this in the more business-oriented characters that have other endeavors than simply beating Hilichurls up with the elements.
There's no need to use a vision in affairs that Mora can solve. As far as affairs only a vision can solve go, I know of only one.
Vision? Oh, this thing? Yeah, whatever. My vision? I suppose the Lord of Geo must be a fan of the opera. Perhaps the old man was so delighted with my performance that he decided to grant me a vision.
Visions are powerful, but one would be foolish to place blind faith in them. Personally, I trust more in thaumaturgy and martial arts. In the end, one cannot become truly proficient without vigorous training.
This perception is really interesting if you think about it. Liyuan characters are from a nation of wealth and trade, which builds a reputation of efficiency, stricture, and rigor. It would make sense why some characters don't care about their vision since they have other careers to prioritize. Secondly, however, are those that respect the ideals a vision represent. Liyuan characters follow a stricter definition of what a vision represents, which is the manifestation of desire, ambition, and aspiration. Instead of them freely characterizing a vision, they take the vision's preconceived meaning and explain their take on it. You can see this in the more formal characters.
Hiding. I'm hiding nothing. I just won't speak of desire to others. Do you mortals not have a rule about spoken wishes never coming true? What do you mean that's not the same?
So this shiny gemstone is called a vision? Huh. The gifts that fate brings, fate can just as easily take away. If one day my connection to this vision comes to an end, that'll be it. And the light inside of it will go out.
If a vision means the approval of the gods, then I don't see why I should want one. In fact, I find it quite insulting. It's like trying to say everything I've ever achieved is all thanks to the gods looking out for me. Well, I got to where I am today through my own hard work. The gods had nothing to do with it.
With authority over 1,000 comes responsibility to 1,000. Rex Lapis knows the meaning of hardship better than anyone else in Liyue. He has seen everything that has happened from ancient times to the present day, and yet he was forced to give up his entire life. Compared to him, I'm just an everyday vision holder with everyday responsibilities. I can't complain about my workload.
But thirdly, much like Mondstadt, Liyue does still have characters that don't really mind putting their own interpretations into what visions are, or what the gods had in store for them. It doesn't matter if they're right or wrong in their interpretation, but they will stand by what the vision means to them.
Visions appear in response to strong desire. So as someone with ideals, it's only natural that I should have received one. Because above all, I wish for all people to live honest lives and abide by the law. But some people will always insist on playing by their own rules and causing havoc for everyone else. Those people can expect to be prosecuted so hard, they won't know what hit them.
I'm guessing that I'm the only person in Teyvat who uses the fire from their vision in rock performances. Some say I should respect that power more. But the way I see it, the gods gave the vision to me, so they like my style, don't you think?
My vision can't turn back time, but at least it gives me the power to protect the people that matter most.
Liyue's culture, despite Rex Lapis being a larger presence here, is still rooted in the freedom of the people. The relationship between the humans and the Adepti are relatively banal, and while the Adepti like to believe that they are only now passing the torch over to humans, history would indicate otherwise. Humans and the Adepti have coexisted in Liyue for so long that it gave them multiple benefits. They do seem to have a deeper understanding of the visions than Mondstadt's characters, and are also much more inclined to respect the divine representations of it rather than making their own. Of course, that's not to say Liyue characters are incapable of making their own conclusions, of course, just that religion and the divine are so rooted in their culture. But the last nation of Inazuma shows a stark contrast between the three. Inazuma's characters are much more sentimental in how they perceive their visions, holding it to the highest level of significance as opposed to the other nations, which makes sense. Other nations never had the threat of their visions being taken away from them, meaning Inazumans grew that extra thread of attachment to something they can lose.
A vision is an eminently useful tool, so it only makes sense to put it to good use. Also, I like to think it's happiest in my possession because it has the chance to shine away in all its glory.
There is hardly any room for flexibility in their definition of the vision, its ambition and the approval of the gods. Unlike the other nations, the characters of Inazuma centered their voice lines around that idea, as well as the idea of defying those that try to take their ambitions away.
Don't even ask. Just the thought of it makes my blood boil! Ooh! First, the Shogun's army goes out and steals everyone's precious visions, which already a heinous crime, right? But then they go and stick them all over that statue with absolutely no sense of organization whatsoever. I mean, think about it. The more powerful the vision, the higher up on the statue it should go. That would make sense, right? But no, some class A jerk in the Tenryou Commission thought it'd be funny to put my vision right at the very bottom. Come on!
In my book, visions are symbols of aspiration, and aspiration is a precious thing indeed. This is exactly why the Resistance was formed, to oppose the Vision Hunt Decree. Aspiration should never be abandoned or forcibly taken away.
My vision amplifies my abilities in battle. It allows me to take greater responsibility on the battlefield and forge a way forward for the troops. But I also understand that one person alone, no matter how strong, is never enough to turn the tide of a battle. The key to victory is everyone's united effort, fighting for a common cause.
As I see it, a vision is the proof of one's strength, not the source of it. It symbolizes the mortal desire to always keep moving forward. But in this endeavor, we samurai place our faith in our blades alone.
Visions are a seal of approval for those who are most ambitious. As for my own ambitions, they shall remain private for now. It is nothing more than an insignificant dream.
Only if the gods cast their gaze upon you will you receive a vision. Since my own vision was granted by the almighty Shogun, I shall return it to her in the end, without hesitation and with no regrets.
There is a repetition of a more human emotion in their voice lines, attachment or defiance. The Vision Hunt Decree truly shaped the way people perceive their visions. I think that if the Vision Hunt Decree never happened, some of these characters would have a more relaxed approach to using a vision. It's fascinating to see how an important event can shape a person's meaning of a symbol. And that's mostly for me today. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and I know this is actually pretty different than my usual theories. I really wanted to share you guys the theory of symbolic interactionism because I think Genshin's lore is open to interpretation. The story is mostly told in a third-person limited, meaning anyone and everything can be subjective. I think that's what makes Genshin's lore fascinating. But anyway, my name is Aster, and thank you for chilling with me.